Okay, so first question, when facing a global crisis, how should we respond? I mean, hopefully it seems pretty obvious. And from talking to some of you this morning, some of you definitely seem to think, yeah, of course, that's what we should be doing. But the challenge always seems to be, how do we do it? So what I'll be presenting here in my talk anyway is effectively a little challenge along this area of trying to make a case for unity and how we can actually achieve that, how we can actually bring this together. Because
our task is to unite humanity throughout the world. And if you act as an individual, you will never be able to achieve that.
Okay, I'm just going to play that one more time for you.
Our task is to unite humanity throughout the world. And if you act as an individual, you will never be able to achieve that.
Okay, now those are the words, obviously, of one of the most revered humanitarian probably leaders and figures that we've ever had, and probably in our history, in recent history anyway. And when I came across that actual message from Nelson Mandela, it was probably about a year ago now, I sort of thought, a man who gets it. But when I came across that message, that was a message that he delivered to the elders, okay? They're a group basically of senior figures throughout the world doing their best to, I think in many ways, make a positive difference in the world as well. And I kind of thought to myself, well, why didn't he say that so much earlier? I mean, he was the president of South Africa, as you know, for a number of years. He's made a tremendous contribution to the world. Why didn't he deliver that message earlier? This actually only happened about, I think it was about 7 years before his death. So he started this process of trying to unite humanity and bring us together as a people, but I think he maybe left it a little bit too late in his life. And in many respects, I feel that it's our responsibility and our also, focus to try and follow that message through. Because a lot of people who look at the way society works as a whole realize that unless we unite together as a people, we really can't solve anything. And the part of the reason for that is that there are so many conflicted interests that we have in the world today where people, and it's not really anybody's sort of fault, it's the way that human society has evolved over thousands of years. Okay, we started through a monetary system. That monetary system built up over time. That monetary system created a sort of focus around self-interest for different people trying to achieve what they needed to achieve to have a better life. And this process has sort of developed on its own natural way. The only issue here in some respects is that it's been going for a very, very long time. And there are certain things that now become more of a concern when you or basically leave society in a conflicted state, and yet your power and your potential in the world through things like chemical weapons, atomic weapons, and the kind of power through scientific technology becomes greater and greater. There is a serious risk that if you don't have the maturity to handle that power with responsible actions, things just keep getting worse and worse. And we see that in some respects today with the global environment. But we'll talk more about that in a second. So we have a massive challenge here in the sense that things are in a very conflicted state. And somehow we have to change that state of conflicted interests towards unity and cooperation. And that's where you guys come in. Okay, so I'll move past this, but this is just a brief slide talking a little bit about the structure of society as a whole. You can see all the actual government systems, a very close alliance with banks. There's a very strong focus, as you all know, basically on economic interests, and that's the way things tend to be. But here tends to be the humanitarian sector down the bottom, absolutely doing its best in every way possible to make a positive difference, to hold the world together in many respects, doing everything they can to try and help improve the state of the world. But they're up against that kind of conflicted interests up the top, which just keeps raining down on everybody's lives. So some way, we have to find a way to bring all of that into unity so it becomes such a powerful message that the rest of society is going to look at that message and say, hold on, you guys are all united towards a focus of unity, global cooperation, and working together on everybody's shared interests. And over here, we've got a society that says, no, let's work in competition with each other. Let's maintain this conflicted state, which creates so many of our problems in the world. And let's just keep on going down this path, because that path basically will lead to wars, poverty, and all the issues we have today. They have a choice. They will look at that view, they'll look at the view that you could be posing and say, which path do you want to go down? Continue down that one or take a new path? But we'll move to that in a second. Okay, I just want you to think about this for a second. I came across this idea really probably about 15, 20 years ago when I started analysing the structure of human society and the way it actually worked. But something stood out like an absolute sore thumb, and I thought, wait a minute, that just doesn't seem right. If you want to drive a car, everybody in this room has to achieve independent standards to actually get a driving license. Those independent standards are set by, the DVLA or whoever it's going to be, but you have to achieve independent assessment standards to make sure that you are safe to drive that car. Fly a plane. You want to fly a plane commercially? You must achieve independent standards. Okay? Otherwise, obviously, if we just let anybody fly a plane, there's going to be a lot more problems. Teach children. Teachers have to achieve independent standards to basically do their job and be accepted as a professional in that field. Lawyers have to achieve independent standards to show that they have the responsibility to work in that field. Building engineers, independent standards. Otherwise, buildings are going to fall down if there's no independent safety standards to make sure things work properly. Surgeons. You walk into a surgery, one thing you definitely want to do is hope that the surgeon has got very good skills and they know exactly what they need to be doing to do, obviously, a good job healing you. All of these people have to achieve independent standards. So society as a whole, no matter what job profession it tends to be, even the London cabbies have to achieve certain standards. But if you want to run a country, you just have to win a popularity contest. What is wrong with that picture? Everywhere else, we actually put standards in place to ensure the safety of society and that things are achieved to make sure that everyone's lives continue as safely and obviously as best as possible. But if you want to run a country and you make decisions that affect millions of people's lives, all you have to do is win a popularity contest. Just think about that one. Okay? So there's no independent standards there at all. Anybody can walk in. Now, this is not about being anti-democratic or anything like that. It's about saying, if you want to drive a car, like I said, no one's stopping you driving a car. You just need to meet those independent standards first. We just want you to actually assess yourself to make sure you've got the skills, the ability to drive that car. Why should it really be any different for anybody that wants to lead or make decisions that govern an entire country? Think about it. There's no standards there at all. Everybody else has to do it except people who make the most important decisions that affect your everyday lives. Okay, first thing to think about. Because in many respects we have got that conflicted society that we talked about, we do end up with a lot of these issues. I mean, you've seen this happen in the media all the time. I really don't need to go into a lot of detail about it. But there is a lot of attack and defend because we have a conflicted state of society. When you have unity and everybody's contributing positively to help benefit society as a whole, you're all on the same page. But if you operate in a conflicted society and people come to an event or a political basically meeting or a UN meeting, whatever it is, people attend that meeting looking to get what they want to get out of that event or out of that meeting. How can I achieve what I need to achieve for the UK government or for the US government or anybody else? So everyone's looking at the situation from a point of self-interest. Okay? When you're unified and you're working together, you're contributing positively because it's in your benefit to do that. That is the power of unity. One of the biggest challenges as to why so many conflicted states exist as well, and I'm not going to go through all the details, obviously, of this slide, but we all have different personality styles. I mean, this is an area that actually isn't too well understood at the moment. It's an area that affects our lives every day, but it's not an area that a lot of people know about. It's why some people in this room will move towards trying to use technology to make a positive contribution to the world, and why other people will say, no, it's not about technology, it's about us developing ourselves as people. So once we mature as a person, we will not create problems out in the world. Now, depending on if you're a heart-centered type person, you'll probably take that path. You'll take the path of self-improvement and try and make a positive difference that way. So you might create a spiritual movement or a community of basically courses where people can learn more about themselves, understand more about the human mind, and try to make a positive contribution to them becoming a better person. Over here, if this is the way you tend to operate from a very head-orientated space, you tend to use things like technology, collaboration, tools, different ways to try and actually use some sort of technological approach to make things better. Okay, so we have different ways of addressing the humanitarian challenges in the world. But one of the key points I wanted to make about this slide is every one of these approaches tends to be limited. So if I have somebody over here that says, I want to approach it from a spiritual point of view and help people develop as human beings, and I've got another group over here that says, no, let's use technology. Technology can solve everything. We can change the whole system, the way it works. We can fix the economic system. We can get rid of money. We can do whatever we need to do. That's the way we should do things. If you take this group over here, they're only going to basically get those people that gravitate to that kind of psychology. So you're going to be limited in your numbers. Okay? You'll be limited in your potential to achieve any sense of unity. Over here, exactly the same thing. And there are a couple of personality styles in between the middle here as well, which end up with the same limitations. So the only way to actually achieve true unity is to bring all of them together. Respect that each approach will use the skills and the strengths that is perfectly attuned to their psychology. So if people basically want to work with technology, great, work with technology. Where people basically want to take it from a personal development, spiritual point of view, great, use that approach. But work together. Okay? So a unified approach gets past those limitations. It respects that everybody operates in a different way and effectively allows all of them to use the approach that works for them. Okay, so the challenge basically is to translate that. This is the power of unity. You can take that situation that we have in the world today, a massive challenge with self-interest throughout the entire world, all the individual national governments focusing on their self-interest. You can take that and you can translate that with one approach. So here's your equation, all that self-interest, add one factor, unity, and it becomes shared interest. One factor changes everything. So when you unify as a people, you work together as a people, you change the psychological dynamic completely. All of a sudden, you're not going to that political conference or that meeting to say, what can I get out of a situation for myself or for my government? You're going to it to basically say, how can I contribute to make this world better for everyone? That is a massive 180-degree psychological change. And that is incredibly powerful. So when you unite as a people, when you work together, you change the psychology completely. It's very important to understand that. That can easily be changed into that. But of course, it has to be approached strategically and sensibly. Because obviously, if you talk to a lot of people in the political sector today, they'll say, unity, one people working together. No, it's never going to happen. Because in their world and the way that they operate, they never see it happen. There's too many conflicted interests. But in the humanitarian world, where the psychology is very much on the same page, the goals are very well aligned, there is a very strong ability there to actually unite and come together as a people. Okay, so transitioning to unity. One of the handouts that maybe you picked up when you basically entered the conference at the doors through there was this handout. And this is just a simple type of strategy approach. Again, this is all a working model. The whole point of this conference is for you to add your own input to how things can be made better here. But if you look at the hundreds of millions of humanitarian-focused people around the world that are trying to make a positive difference today, their values and the goals that they really want to achieve are actually very, very well aligned. But if you talk to some people who, for example, you're going to hear some people today talk from the Zeitgeist movement, you see all these technology stands around the outside, that's their focus. And the ideas they've got are brilliant. They're brilliant. We could use, obviously, technology to improve so many things in the world in so many ways. Now, other speakers you're going to hear today, again, their ideas make sense. They all work. Okay? But the whole point of what we're trying to achieve here is to bring all of these ideas together and contribute them to humanity as a whole. Work together. So if we unite the humanitarian sector here, link up and work together, we've got that common purpose, that common vision, that common set of goals that we all want to achieve. And we support one another. There's absolutely no reason at all why we can't build up massive numbers in the humanitarian community as a whole and say, let's support each other and help each other achieve the goals that we all have. But do it as a unified process. And when all of these people unite and work together, that effectively, those massive numbers of people united and working together is going to pose a beacon of light to the people of the world, the public, and say, hold on, you've got a humanitarian community here that's massively united, that all want to work together to make a positive difference, to end wars, end all the conflicts, end the poverty, everything. And yet we've got this conflicted society which always seems to be, basically competing against each other all the time for their self-interest. Which is the better model to use? Okay. It's a decision, though. This whole process is a simple decision. We simply have to decide to do it. There's absolutely nothing standing in our way. Nothing at all. Since we started trying to put this process and this model in place about a year ago, we've got about 25 or so small humanitarian groups engaged in this process now. We could easily, massively increase those numbers if more people look at the goals that we're trying to achieve here today together as a people, massively improve those numbers and show people that our united position for a better world makes better sense for everybody. Now that model, like I said, would go out to people in the world and they'll see how that effectively can work for the benefit of everybody. And that's really what we're trying to achieve. But we need to make that decision to do it. As much as, humanity has put self-interest in the way of all the things that we can positively improve for the world today, we have to try and put that aside and work together as a people. Okay, so that's the kind of situation we've got. A very aggressive, conflicted system, a lot of competition, a lot of self-interest, governments spying on each other, hacking systems going on around the world. There's so much aggression between countries and basically governments today that obviously it's causing so many issues. We have to move beyond that system to a unified based approach. But because the humanitarian sector is so well aligned, it has to lead it. You're the answer. When you look at humanity as a whole and you look at us as a people, it is the humanitarian community that said that every day is out there trying to make a positive difference. You'll walk down London, basically, and someone will be stopping you, asking you for contributions or money from some humanitarian agency. But they're all working separately. Pulled together as a people, as a community, and you have the numbers and the ability to truly make the difference. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the urgency element here, but I just want to show you something here as a symbolic analogy of this. Here is what we have today. Okay? Here's what we have today. We've got all the conflicted interests. We've got all the competition. We've got all the self-interest. All of those problems in society, the greed, the aggressiveness, everything. That's what we have today. Now, you can invest a massive amount of energy and time trying to reform and change that system. And if you want to do that, great, do it. But how hard is it always going to be trying to change a system where you're psychologically working against yourself? You're saying, hey, we've got millions of people here to change the environment, to improve everything. We go on a protest march, we present that message. And a handful of people, your leaders, if they don't support those kind of changes and have got other agendas, will just say, no. So millions asking a handful to do the right thing. That's what happens all the time. In our world, we're trying to reform and change a very conflicted and, unfortunately, a system that has got massive problems. Or you take your energy, your time, your resources, your passion, your power, funding, everything, and you create a unified approach for a world that makes sense to you, and you share it with the world. Cheers.